Hi, everyone. So I wanted to do a prediction of what a hypothetical election map might look like in 2050. So, like maybe the 2052 or 2048 presidential elections. Um, so, obviously, it's entirely to completely correctly predict this, but I'm just going to be extrapolating from trends, you know, clear trends that are happening in the present day states, like, for example, in the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt, etc. And I'll start out with the new safe states. So these are the four categories. So safe, I would define that as over 10 points in either party. Likely, that would, to me would be 5 to 10. Lean would be 1 to 5%, and tilt would be 0 to 1%. Um, and I'll start off with the safe states for the Democrats that are not safe today, but will be safe in 2024. Starting off, first one's pretty obvious: Georgia, trending heavily blue. Republicans have one more shot at flipping it back in 2024, but after that, I'd be surprised if it ever went blue, ever went red again. It's pretty much gone. Arizona also, less so than Georgia, but like I definitely Arizona. I think it could possibly go red a few more times within the next few election cycles, but I think by 2050 it will be a safe blue state. And so by safe, I even think you'd be able to call it poll closing time. So, yeah. So whereas today these two states are swing states, by 2050 your vote in those states will no longer have power. Said this will be like like Illinois or California today, where your vote just doesn't matter. And also, of course, Virginia. We already know Virginia's very close to being safe already. It was a Biden plus 10 state in 2020, and it's only the trends in the Nova suburbs and the urban areas are just out of control, and it's we all know it's pretty gone for the Republicans at this point, and Colorado as well, for these same reasons. Now, yeah, I think those are the new safe states for the Democrats. Um, I mean, there's more like other safe states that I'll predict in a bit. Like, but I first want to go to the new safe states for the Republicans, the ones that are not safe today. First will be Nevada, and this one's a lot of people are saying that Nevada could vote to the right of Arizona in 2024. I would even go as far as to say that this is guaranteed. Nevada is guaranteed to vote to the right, just with the way that Nevada is trending. It didn't budge in the 2024 election. 2020 election, like compared to 2016, even though the national environment moved left by 2.5 points. So it trended rightward 2.5 points relative to the national environment. And if it continues this trend, then it will vote 1 point to the right of Arizona in 2024. Like, I'm willing to bet money. So you could literally see a map like this. You can see Arizona tilt blue for Biden and Nevada tilt red for Trump. Or you could see something like this in 2024. But going back to 2050, by then I think Nevada will be a safe red state if it keeps trending red at this point. It's going to trend red to the point where I think you'll be able to call it poll closing time. And similarly, Florida, we know at this point it's pretty much gone for the Democrats. Maybe they could win it again in the next decade, maybe once, but I highly doubt it. I'd be surprised if Florida ever went blue again. It's DeSantis is having a pretty big effect in the state. He's making the registrations exceed the Democrats by a lot. And who knows? Glenn Youngkin might have that type of effect in Virginia too, but highly doubtful. Virginia, the trends are just in the urban areas are just out of control. So I think Virginia will be safe blue, and Florida will no longer be a swing state. in 2050, or even by the end of the current decade, even in 2030, I think Florida will start to become solidly red. And what other states? Wisconsin, yes, Wisconsin trending heavily red. We all know about this, and I think it would become a safe red state even by the end of the decade. And this is I'm echoing. I agree with Red Eagle politics on this issue. That Wisconsin will be safe red by the end of the decade. Keep in mind, though, that this is only assuming that the changes with the parties are going to continue. So, like, this is assuming that the Republican Party will continue to become the party of Trumpian nationalist populism, that kind of candidates. So, like, if 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 the Republicans went back to being like a Bush or a Nikki Haley or like just the establishment type or Liz Cheney, then I think Wisconsin would not be safe. I think Wisconsin in that case would even lean blue, and it would not become solid red. It would continue to become competitive at best, and like maybe even likely blue. It would stay likely blue if the Democrats continue to have like a populist candidate like Obama again. But if assuming the Republican Party becomes a party of populism, then Wisconsin will become a safe red state in the future. So what other states? Well, Iowa, Ohio, obviously reason they're nearly safe already. They'll probably be safe in 2024. Yeah, so those are the new safe states. I think those are 69 electoral votes for the Republicans, 50 new for the Democrats. But both of them will also be losing some states. So I'm gonna see the ones that are the same with the present day. So first, California. This is actually a part where if the Republicans ran like another Bush or like the establishment type candidate, then I think California could actually narrow up, because like Bush in 2004, he lost California by only 9 points, so like only a likely margin, but California is trending heavily blue now because they really do not like Trumpian national populist type candidates. So California, I think, will remain a safe blue state into 2050s. I guess that's kind of unfortunate because your vote in California is never going to have power. And I suppose Washington as well, but not Oregon, because Washington is also very progressive, and it's trending heavily blue during the Trump years. But I don't think Hawaii might still be safe. It might still be different. What other states? Maryland probably still going to be safe. DC, of course. I mean, 90% of the people there vote Democrat, like 88% or something like that. Massachusetts is just two left, and it's not trending red. Vermont, those are all pretty safe. It's pretty solidly Dem at this point. I think Nebraska's second will be a solidly blue district by then, unless it's gerrymandered or something like that. And same with Maine's first, as the urban as urban areas become more democratic, and suburban areas become more democratic as well. So states of the Republicans that are going to stay solidly red: Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the most conservative state in the union, but not Utah. Utah I'll get to in a moment. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, the rest of Nebraska. It's going to be an internally divided state in that way. Not Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, not Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, not South Carolina, and Indiana. So, yeah, these are going to be all the safe states for the Republicans, and not Alaska. Yeah, I'll get to that later. So, here's another interesting thing: is that by the 2050s, I think Republicans are actually going to have more safe states than the Democrats, more safe electoral votes, which is it's kind of unthinkable in the modern day climate, because now in the present day, Democrats have like 180 safe votes they start out with, and Republicans only have 125. But by 2050, I think that's going to entirely change, and it's going to be easier for Republicans to win electorally, which is it's pretty amazing if you think about it. Yeah, so these are the safe states for the Republicans and Democrats. So now I'm going to move into more like the likely states. Likely. I think Oregon is still going to stay a likely Democrat state. Narrowing up a bit, I think Hawaii as well. I think by that time, Texas. I mean, this might be a little doom and gloom for the Republicans is the loss of Texas, but Texas is trending blue, and I think I do not think it would go blue in 2024. I think it could possibly go blue in 2028 and definitely by 2032. But at the same time, a lot of the people who are moving there are also conservatives, so who knows? And that could slow down the leftward trend in a bit, and also the Tejanos in South Texas are shifting heavily to the right as well. But by 2050, I think the state would definitely be, leaning blue. Either, at the very least, lean blue. I think that's the most that you could slow it down to, but possibly even likely blue. I think it's more likely it's going to be likely blue. Now, what are likely blue states? I think New York would still stay likely blue. It could possibly. I think New York and Hawaii, they could possibly stay solid, but I'm just going to put them as likely. I think there's room for the rural populations to turn out more, and for the urban populations to leave and stuff. But yeah, I think that's all for the likely blue states in 2050. I think the likely red states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, of course, both of them trending, the Rust Belt trending heavily red, but not as much as Wisconsin is. And I think yeah, arguably, I think that's probably all of the likely red states. Well, New Mexico may be debatable, but that's a little for the future. Lean Democrat states at this point. I think Kansas will become a lean Democrat state by that point. Kansas is trending somewhat blue, but it's also got a long way to go before it breaks the barrier. But I think Kansas will have gone blue at least once by then, and I think it will be a competitive state. So what other lean states? I think North Carolina as well. Even though North Carolina is a swing state in today, but I think it's sort of like the state that, no matter how much it shifts, it always just narrowly stops before you get to before it flips. So it's going to be pretty hard to like get it into blue territory. But by 2050, I think they'll be able to do it. I think North Carolina will become like a lean blue by the ever so narrow margin. It will just be in that narrow range, but it would always tilt blue, lean blue, instead of red like it currently does. Um, and South Carolina as well. South Carolina, it's getting bluer. It will flip by 2032. And by, I mean, honestly, both of these could become likely even, but I don't know. I don't see them becoming likely to that trend. So, I mean that much. So I'll put them both as lean. But what other states become? Yeah, I think that's all for lean. Oh, I think by then Alaska will also be lean blue. Alaska, I mean, it was only a likely margin. It was only a Trump +9 state in 2020. And I think with trends, I think by 2050, you'll have broken the barrier and it will be narrowly in the blue column. So blue Alaska, blue Kansas, yeah. A little unthinkable for today, but yeah, that's what I fully believe. Now, lean red states. I think Minnesota by then. Like Minnesota's kind of weird. It's like it trended leftward in 2020, but it trended heavily rightward in 2016. It's kind of a state that like just makes no sense. I mean, it's also kind of like North Carolina in some ways that's like just barely perma blue, hard to flip red. But I highly just doubt by 2050 that it wouldn't have broken its streak of voting Democrat. And I think by then it will have gone red at least once, even if by like the narrowest of margins. But I think by then, Minnesota will start to change. I think people are leaving there, right? I think something like that, just like the rest of the Rust Belt. Just not enough to have lost one electoral vote yet. But I think Minnesota was supposed to lose one electoral vote. It was supposed to go down to 9. So people are leaving the state too. So that helps Republicans. Yeah, that's all. Oh, New Mexico as well. New Mexico, Hispanics are trending heavily Republican. And New Mexico, it didn't, just like Nevada, it didn't budge, even though the national environment went left by 2 points. So yeah, I think by then you can see a sort of New Mexico going red. Kind of a geographical oddity. Just look how this looks. Doesn't look neat, but yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. So, tilt blue states. I think Utah might be able to tilt blue by 2050 because it is trending Democrat despite being solidly red at this point in time. And I think at that point, look at the situation with the four corners. You could even have these two red and these two blue, or you could have these three blue and then Nevada, New Mexico red. A little weird, but I think that's probably what you might see in 2050. And I think Mississippi possibly could be blue by then. I mean, just because of the heavy black population in the state. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily like guaranteed to happen, but I think possibly by 2050 you could see a blue Mississippi by the narrowest of margins. And I think what others? Yeah, that's all for the tilt blue states. Tilt red states. I think by then my home state of Illinois will have flipped red at least once. Because like Illinois, it also did not budge, even though the National Environment moved left by 2 points, so it actually also trended like Nevada, 2 points 2.5 points Republican. Even and that said, Illinois is also like solidly blue currently as we speak. Like it was a Biden plus 17 state, but so divided by 2.5, that means it needs 7 election cycles. So I think, yeah, by 2048, if it continues to trend red at the current pace, you will see a red Illinois. Illinois will flip, and for the first time ever, we Illinoisans, our votes will actually have power. At least, well, Republicans, that is. Maybe not the Democrats, but whatever. And I think by 2050, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Delaware could all have flipped red. At least once. Because these states, they narrowed up significantly in 2016, especially against like a very, very bad candidate. And it looks like the Democrats are going to continue to run, bad candidates as they become the party of the establishment. And that's good for a lot of states. Like, actually, now that I come to it, I think New Hampshire, it's a swing state today, and I was hoping, to see like a red New Hampshire sometime. But I think, given that I'm predicting the Democrat Party will become the party of the establishment and will become socially liberal and economically conservative, that is actually the exact recipe that New Hampshireans want, because they're socially liberal and fiscally conservative. So I think New Hampshire by 2050 will become a solid Democrat state. Although, in that case, I might revise some of my old, because maybe that might not be the best recipe for like the Bernie Bros, because because as the Democrat Party becomes more liberal, more liberal socially, and more fiscally conservative, as the moderate Republicans, never Trumpers, they move to the Democrat Party, and then the populists move to the Republican Party. I think you might start to see a lot of Bernie Bros start to cross over. So I think Washington could become likely, and Vermont could even become likely, like very progressive states. So I think by 2050 you could even have Vermont voting to the right of New Hampshire. Yeah, a little unthinkable in the present day, but yeah, I think that's entirely possible. And Maine 2nd District, of course, safe. I think Maine at large at that point, given the dichotomy, the two districts are going to become ever more polarized. Maine at large could possibly go either way. I think it would have flipped red at least once, so I would put it as tilt red. Yeah, so this is the rough map, I'd say. This doesn't necessarily mean the Democrats are necessarily going to win all the time, because Mississippi doesn't have to be tilt blue. Utah doesn't have to be tilt blue. Like, what other states can we flip? Lots of these. And similarly, the Republicans, Utah could be tilt red. Illinois could be tilt red. Minnesota, Mississippi, it could become tilt blue, and all these states too. Maine at large. So, yeah. So that said, what are the swing states going to be in 2050s? I think by then, Utah will be a swing state. Illinois, Minnesota, possibly, as well, if it hasn't become solidly red. New Mexico, possibly, if it hasn't become solidly red. Alaska, possibly Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina might even become very blue, but I guess I'll put that as probably going to be a swing state. Kansas, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maine at large still. So, and Texas might even still be one. Yeah, so by then, if you live, a lot of areas where today your vote doesn't really have power, your vote will have power in the 2050s. And today, a lot of areas like Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Nevada, Florida, where your votes, Ohio, where your votes once had power, you're now being screwed. Yeah, so that's my prediction for the future. And once again, yeah, it is easier for Republicans to win. A little unthinkable in today's electoral climate. But yeah, I think this is what the map will look like in 2050. Thank you all for watching. If you like more videos like these, subscribe and tell me scenarios you want to do. Yeah, and I'll see you later.